Hello and welcome back to Exothermic Plays Games. I'm Exothermic and the date today is Monday, November 4th, 2024. I've been doing a countdown of my favorite video games of all time through each day of the year, and coming in at number 58 is The Legend of Zelda, Twilight Princess. I want to explain something right away here. The footage you're seeing here is the GameCube version of the game, but that's because I had an issue with recording the version of this I actually owned originally, and that this ranking is based on the Wii version. I will say I'm surprised at how good the GameCube version looks, and I thought it would be much worse than my original experience. I'm glad to report that everything works great. The Nintendo Wii released on November 19th, 2006, and Twilight Princess was definitely the thing holding down the fort as a day one title. Well, that and Wii Sports. That console sure hit the ground running, and really it was mostly downhill from there. Mostly. I've only got one game ranked higher than that for the platform, and I'm not even playing it on the Wii to record, so I get to pack this gem of a console back away for a while. Good night, sweet prince. But this game is about a princess. Sort of. In this iteration of The Legend of Zelda, you start off in the village of Ordon, where Link leads a quiet, peaceful life as a ranch hand. He helps the neighborhood, rescuing cats, dealing with wasps, playing beautiful melodies with grass. He's a man of many, many talents, but talking isn't one of them. And apparently, neither is the fishing that he's expected to do. I hate fishing in this game, probably more than anything else it asks me to do, but at least I don't need to do it often. Well, one day, he hears the call of adventure and must take an important package to Hyrule Castle, but first, he has to save some neighborhood children from some bokoblins, and his horse gets injured in the process. All of these delays lead to Link getting ambushed by some other bokoblins, and the children and his totally not girlfriend are abducted while he has a whole different problem. He's a doggo, a big old pupper. A woofer. He's a wolf now. This game follows the same formula of the vast majority of the franchise, where some dark evil thing is taking over Hyrule, and you need to stop it by adventuring through the land, entering dungeons, defeating sources of corruption and evil, all while collecting ancient relics in order to ultimately save the day. But the twist the game provides is that this time, you've got 4 legs and a tail. Sometimes. But you're not alone. After being transformed, you are found by Midna, a strange little creature who seems to possess incredible power. While all of this has been going on, the ruler of the Twilight Realm has taken over Hyrule and forced Zelda to surrender the kingdom. The land all falls into big shadow known as Twilight, and you have to restore the light, but there's some complications in the way. For starters, you can only navigate through Twilight with Midna's help, and anytime you're in there, at least for much of the game, you're stuck in wolf form. So get used to being told what to do, and get used to your cool new moveset. As a wolf, you can't use any of your items, but you do have access to a lot of cool things. You can bite and claw at enemies, and some of your senses are drastically heightened. Using your superior sense of smell and hearing, you can track enemies, find buried items, and do all sorts of unique puzzles you couldn't have done in previous titles. I love when a Zelda game lets me do puzzles in a new way, and there's lots of new ways to do puzzles in this game. As a wolf, you can track scents throughout large areas, helping you navigate to different places and follow things for both the story and subplots and side quests and just random items and things. It's really helpful. A lot of the navigation, though, is figuring out how to traverse areas without being able to properly climb or use your items. So you can dig holes under walls, or really fun is utilizing Midna to leap around different elevations. I mentioned Link playing music with grass. Well, he's still a musician at heart and lets out the biggest woo he's got in him. The wolf is a lot of fun, but it's not what I describe as the serious parts of the game, just fun. And that's alright with me. The dungeons, however, have a lot more going on. Once you're able to clear up some of the darkness in an area, you can transform back to being a Hylian, or later when you have the Master Sword, you can just do it whenever. You've got your traditional setup of having to find a map and a compass and little keys and beat mini bosses and solve puzzles by getting around obstacles and locked doors and lighting fires and climbing vines and maybe a little swimming and all of that good stuff that just makes a 3D Zelda game a 3D Zelda game. I do appreciate that there's often another gimmick within each dungeon that you have to solve, like in the first dungeon you need to free all of these monkeys in order to progress throughout it. I do wish, though, that the monkeys would shut the hell up, so there is that. But there's definitely new items here. The Forest Temple introduces the Gale Boomerang, which has many of the uses of boomerangs in other titles, but with a new twist that I really like. It can target up to 5 things at a time and will go amongst them in the order that you locked on them in, allowing for great uses not only in puzzles, but also combat. It's easy to just talk about this item because it's early in the game, but the Gale Boomerang really is one of my favorite things in Twilight Princess because it actually allows you to get pretty creative with the puzzles. Maybe there's a bomb and you want to get to a certain location. Well, you can actually throw the boomerang at the bomb and then have it just carry it to the rocks you want to blow up rather than having to throw it to yourself with the boomerang and then toss it over there. And there's a lot of cool stuff you can do with multiple possible solutions. It's great. Or there's puzzles where you need to hit things in a very specific order, like the lock to this door protecting a heart piece, which you can find the order, in this case at least, because there's a Z pattern on the ground, and that's actually showing you, hey, you need to hit these switches in this order with the boomerang. The combat itself is fairly traditional 3D Zelda. You have your sword, you swing, you do your jump, backflips, side steps, whatever. Obviously the wolf sections are different, but there are some additional wrinkles in the Hylian sections as well. So you train with this skeleton knight that's like a hero from the past that knows a lot of things and teaches you, for example, like the finishing move where you get to like pounce on people that are knocked on the ground and stab them into the ground, and it's great. Important to wolf combat though, there are these black monsters you'll occasionally be trapped with, and you need to defeat all of them simultaneously, which you might think is hard to time out, but there's actually a special move you can use while in wolf form that creates an area around you, and you strike all of them simultaneously. So you just need to pick off one or two and then finish off the rest at the same time. Otherwise, if you ever get down to one left, it'll respawn all of them. Even just something that consistently pops up in the game like that and can, if I remember right, does sometimes do different numbers and things, allows it to be kind of more strategic as opposed to just run around and hack and slash with your sword and, oh, maybe we throw a bomb. But the combat in this game has more puzzle to it than most other titles in the franchise, and that is what makes it stand above most other things to me. The important thing about killing these monsters is that they open a portal in the sky, and that's how you can travel quickly with Midna. She can teleport you through these portals because, again, she is very powerful. You see, the world in Twilight Princess is significantly larger than any of the previous titles in the franchise, and you need a lot of ways to move around. Eventually, you get to some pretty open world sections of the game that are really great without feeling aimless, and it really establishes some new ideas for the designs of Hyrule that I absolutely love. There's a lot of side quests you can do in this game. Some are just collecting things and bringing them to people and, hey, thank you, here's money or whatever. But some of them are also like doing courier quests from different locations. There's a whole subplot with the mail carrier that's fun. There's a lot of people as you save more and more places from the Twilight threat that you unlock all of these towns and get a whole lot of stuff going on that I think is more expansive than even some of the games that are technically larger. The story for Twilight Princess is pretty good, though admittedly it's still really predictable and formulaic for the most part. I don't really play Zelda games for the story, but I definitely like this one. Midna's a very dynamic character as Link's companion, and there's a lot of interesting developments connecting her and Zelda that I think are great directions for both of them as characters. This was one of the starts of making Zelda a, powerful, strong character. I mean, obviously, in Ocarina of Time, spoiler, she turns into Sheik. She is strong and powerful in that game, but more directly to the public. Like, she's got a sword and stuff, and I really like that direction with the character. Obviously, we're seeing a lot more. Recently, there's the new game that came out, and she's the hero this time, finally, for the first time ever. But it kind of really felt like it kicked off with Twilight Princess. A lot of things felt like they kicked off with Twilight Princess. I do also want to talk about the controls a bit here. On GameCube, things do feel great, which I've learned now, but really the Wii controls are stellar and one of the best adaptations for the console. Later games definitely had better motion tracking, and certainly Skyward Sword has far more precise swordplay controls. But in some ways, the game not relying on specific motions actually makes the feel of Twilight Princess a little better to me. You still get fun aiming with your slingshot or bow and arrow, and realistically, you barely even need to flick your wrists for any of the swordplay. But that does mean you can sit back with it a bit more, and fewer concessions need to be made to accommodating these controls in fight or puzzle designs, allowing them to be a bit more complex and intricate overall. Twilight Princess isn't my favorite Zelda game, but there are serious arguments that it might be the best Zelda game, as the most polished take on the traditional formula, at least regarding 3D Zeldas. And when I think of what Hyrule should look and feel like, what I think of now, even after having played several titles after it, is the map and world design for Twilight Princess. Join me tomorrow as I talk about my 57th favorite game, where I do this all again, but my wooden sword acts like one.